Hey everybody, can you hear me okay? I'll make the guru messages more polite. Yeah, something like that. I was, hopefully you can hear me, guys. Can you hear me? Sound is good, awesome. If you need me to adjust the levels, guys, just let me know. I might have a bit of feedback because I just need to mute something here. And I can hear myself for some. There we go. Oh, hopefully you can hear me, guys. Can you hear me? Oh, hang on. I've just realised it's my phone. I need to mute that as well. I'm so good at this. Shut up, Vicky. How do you mute YouTube? Oh, turn the volume down, of course. Sorry. Okay. I'm not a pro, am I? Back off the mic a bit. Yes. Sorry, it was my phone. What it is I'm using my phone to keep an eye on the chat, and yeah, I forgot to turn the volume down on my phone because I'm an idiot. So great to see you all here today, guys, or this evening. Hi Neil, hi Dave, hi Ara42, Graham in the chat, Joss 80. Got Anthony. Hey Anthony, how's it going? Graham. We've got Phil in the chat. We've got Hazemaker. Hey Hazemaker. It's cool AF. Yes, definitely. Hi Mestra. How are you doing? And who else we got here? Wow, we've got loads of... Hi Bishop. Nice to see you here. Thank you for your lovely message the other day. That was really kind of you. Hopefully you can hear me all good. Yeah. Okay, so this evening is just sort of like a test of this new piece of streaming equipment that I've purchased this week, and just to see how this goes before I do another pixel art stream, because last time I was so far behind with explaining what was happening on the screen that it really wasn't making much sense. So hopefully the next hour or so will go well. I don't want to overlap with the amigos, Boat and Aaron. So because obviously don't want to split the audience, but you're free to go wherever you want. So we're just going to play a bit of Lotus this evening, Lotus 2, a bit of Rainbow Islands, and we'll just see what happens really. So this is all going to be coming from my real Amiga 600. Yeah, so yeah, all good. Just a couple of questions in the chat. Graham asked, what equipment am I using? Well, today is either going to say buy it or don't. I'm using a what's it called? Magewell, something like that. Magewell USB to HDMI. Thanks to CEX, they didn't sell me the Generation 2 one, which I bought on the site. They sent me a Generation 1, which doesn't have Mac compatible software to adjust the resolution and stuff. So, but Magewell have helped me flash the device to work with the software. So whether I return this to CEX is another matter, but it seems to work really well, actually. Yeah, so that's what I'm using. Otherwise, it's all fed into a number of boxes, which I'll probably go through on a separate stream, perhaps, or a separate video. What else can I answer? Yeah, gurus. If I made a chip, what would it be? Well, yeah, I mean, you know, obviously the Amiga is pretty much perfect as it is. Well, looking at it in 2019, it is. Wouldn't be saying that in 1993, but what chip would I be? I don't know. Hopefully the one that makes you smile. So that's really pathetic, isn't it? Okay, so yeah, I think I've answered everybody's stuff. Graham, just to quickly recap, the reason I don't use the Elgato HD60 or HD60S is because my Mac Mini is also definitely of the retro computing era, because Apple doesn't update them very often. But it's just not powerful enough to sort of run that. It needs a sort of like a 5th generation i5, and mine's only a 3rd generation i7. So that's the reason why. The Magewells are more expensive, but I have to say it's been hassle-free so far. The quality's great, and if you get onto CEX, you know, they do list the Magewell Gen 2 HDMI devices on there for a very reasonable £85, I think I paid. So check them out, but obviously be aware that they may get some people trading in the Gen 1 devices and the people behind the counters just wouldn't know the difference between a Generation 1 Magewell and a cow that's halfway up a tree. So, oh, and it would be without the manual as well. So, okay, let's switch over to the Amiga. Hopefully I'm going to keep an eye on the chat. We'll do our best, and let's just go straight into some Lotus. Great, and this is a great mod, isn't it? So let's just close this down. Okay, so let's just go into here. I do have Rainbow Islands on disc, which but I'll probably just play it on from hard drive as such, so because that's just easier. So WHD load's great, isn't it? Okay, just make sure. Magewell, Magewell. I think that's how it's spelled. So, yeah. So hopefully that will do you good, Graham. So, I've also I can also see the stream here, so I can see that whilst we're not talking about light years of difference, what you're seeing is just a little bit behind where I am, but never mind, eh? I'm just going to tweak the audio output on the Amiga because I've got a slightly dodgy connection. There we go. Cool. Yes, it was a good price, Error 42. It was a bit of a bargain. So yeah, there are other good options. Hazemaker gave me some great advice earlier on this week. So yeah, there's lots of options out there, but just owing to what I need, my max age, and the fact I wasn't in the market for a new computer for another couple of years or so, the Amiga audio is very quiet. Okay, Phil, let me just sort that out. I would dial back your volume just for a moment, just whilst I... How's that? Hopefully that's a bit better. I'll just wait for a confirmation that the audio is okay, and then we'll crack on. Perfect! Awesome. Okay, I'm really new to all this stuff, so there's going to be a bit of fiddling about, so hopefully you can hear me over it. So, okay. I'm dancing to Lotus, yeah. Well, to be fair, this is a great track, so... right, we'll start from the very beginning, so no laughing, guys. Yeah, that music. Hi, hello, Geordie Marv. How are you doing? Yeah, this music is just great, isn't it? It's one of the things I would just switch on my Amiga back in the day and just let it play. It's great. It sounds really good on my hi-fi.
Set. Go.
Oh, hang on, I've got autofire on the zip stick there, so just make sure that's switched off, because otherwise that will slow you down. Cool. God, this is quite hard to... I'm never going to be able to keep an eye on the chat, guys, so it's going to be a bit tough to follow all the questions live whilst we're playing the game, but we'll do our best. It's certainly a different experience, sort of chatting over a live stream. One of the things that really impressed me about Lotus was just its Lotus 2 is its smoothness, the fact that it was full screen. It's just one of those iconic Amiga games, really, so... Yeah, the Lotus 3 music is great, isn't it? Yeah, I really agree with that. I don't know why, but Lotus 3 just for me, I think it's probably the tracks. I think that's what let it down for me, if I'm honest. I just think there's something about the combination of Lotus 2's pickup playability, which of course Lotus 3 does have, but it's, yeah. Yeah, 2-player on Lotus was great. Back in the day, and around about 95, I picked up a second Amiga, an Amiga 500 Plus, and myself and my dad, we made a a very dodgy null modem cable. I've probably told some of you guys in the chat about this, but it was literally the world's mankiest bit of telephone cable paired with some badly soldered DB, are they 25 connectors for serial? Yeah, it was just so shoddy. But the really cool thing is that we was able to sort of plug in my Amiga 600 to the Amiga 500 Plus, which was in my brother's bedroom. So we was able to have these amazing full-screen Lotus 2 competitive matches, which, you know, it seemed mind-blowing at the time, even though this was a good, I'd say, couple of years after, you know, sort of like it was the most modern thing around, I guess. So, yeah, it was really cool. Yeah, it's superbly coded, isn't it? It's just smooth as butter. So it just makes you think how good other driving games on the Amiga could have been of the arcade variety. I mean, obviously the most obvious one is Outrun, which is just appalling on the Amiga. It really is. It's almost like somebody purposely went out their way to make it as shoddy as that, which of course they did, because US Gold brought in Probe, wasn't it? Probe to develop it. So, but it does make you wonder what would have happened if our friends, what were they called? I forget their name now. But you know, the Destroyers of Worlds, when it came to Amiga ST ports back in the day. I can't remember their name. Begins with a T. Amiga LAN Party. Yeah, this was kind of the Amiga LAN Party. There were other great racing games to Amiga. I mean, I'm not really into Formula 1, but my Amiga 600 came with the Jeff Crammond's Formula 1 Grand Prix, which was a bit slow on the Amiga 600 with its built, you know, sort of default 1 mega chip and 68,000. But I do remember playing that on my Amiga 1200 when I got that in 1996, and couldn't quite catch that one. But it definitely played a lot smoother. So Power Drift, yeah, that was absolute tosh on the Amiga as well, wasn't it? So Tier Text, thanks Graham. Oh, I've had therapy to get over their name. Yeah, they're terrible. Stunt Car Racer on the Amiga was great. Yeah, I've not played that for a long time actually. I need to get onto that. So yeah, so this was definitely one of my favourite Amiga driving games in the day. I'm not really a cars person, you know, in real life. You know, I'm not into watching racing or, you know, driving, you know, fancy cars or anything like that. I mean, I drive a Panda called Sue. Bonus points for any of you who get the joke. No, I actually do call my Fiat Panda Sue. So, yeah. But yeah, this was just like pick up and play. That's what I loved about Lotus 2. It's just epic. I just see if this engine was used in so many of those dodgy ports like Outrun or Power Drift, you know, we could have had a very different scene. But I guess the Amiga was just such a slow burner to start with commercially, sadly. It was wasn't really until sort of things like Shadow the Beast and you know, games of that ilk at least showed the power of the Amiga. And then it took perhaps another year or so, probably about 91 maybe, for us to get games that sort of matched that technical prowess with, you know, arcade gameplay. But yeah, these days I don't really particularly worry too much about what could have been. I mean, you know, there's a little bit of me that thinks, gosh, it would have been great if the Amiga had been a lot more successful, but what we've got left is something that's kind of perfect in itself. So yeah, the speed of this game is just, oh, it's brilliant. No. Hopefully the audio and the stream is doing all right, guys. This is a bit different to obviously doing live pixel art, because obviously when I'm doing that, I'm usually referring to a very specific thing I'm doing on screen. And yeah, so obviously this is just obviously racing around and just general commentary. I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat, guys, but I'm just waiting for the bit with the long tunnel to come up on this stage for me to be able to look down, because there we go. Oh, hang on, miles back there. Is this an accelerated A600 fast? No, not really. It's, well, barely accelerated. It's got a 2 megabyte PCM CIA RAM card. If you go on eBay, you'll find them generally listed under 2 MB SRAM cards. But otherwise, it's just a Motorola 68000 Amiga 600, you know, stock out the factory. It's got 2 megabytes of chip RAM as well. That's a very straightforward upgrade on the Amiga 600. You don't have to fiddle about with different Agnes chips and fat Gary adapters like you do with the Amiga 500. I'm not referring to the Amiga 500 Plus there, but so many of them have been eaten away by Avata, sadly. But no, this Amiga 600 is totally vanilla, really. It's purposely so, to be honest with you, because out of all the accelerators for the Amiga, it seems that the only ones that are readily available at the moment are the Furia, which is a Motorola 68020 based accelerator. It has fairly good write-ups, although there are the issues of potentially fake out of time. No, man, I've been doing so well. Oh, shit. I don't know how I managed to balls that level up. Stream is very good. Awesome. Yeah, Vroom was quite a good racer. Very fast, I seem to recall that one. So, yeah, I've purposely kept this Amiga 600 very vanilla apart from the RAM, because back in the day, as you might have heard in my previous stream, I'm just going to quit out of this and I'm going to do Twilight Stage again. I had eventually Amiga 1200 in the tower, which for a couple of years at least had a Motorola 68040 40 megahertz in it, which, you know, basically clocked it much faster than the stock Amiga 4000 040. And then eventually I scored a sweet deal on a Blizzard PPC. It was sold as non-working, but Reflash and EEPROM brought it back to life. It was a bit slow on the 68K side because it was like the most basic Blizzard PPC that you could get. It was no 4025, still pretty nippy, and with a Blizzard a PowerPC 603 160 megahertz, so it was very, very fast on the PPC side. You could play quite happily on it. It had RTG, but sadly that Amiga 1200 it just died, and that's when I moved away from the Amiga scene. I also had a Amiga 3000, which was an 030 machine. I did pick up a Commodore A3640 for it, which was the 25 megahertz 040 board, but I could never get it to work, so that went... I don't know what happened to that, actually. And for a little while I was loaned for over a year an Amiga 4000 with a 060 in it, an Apollo 4060 and Picasso 4, and that thing was like grease lightning. You see PageStream and Shapeshifter on that. It was excellent. But then obviously I left the Amiga scene in sort of 2000, and it was only really last year that I dug my Amiga 600 that I bought in 1993 at the loft. And you know, I've done the days of having Amigas with you know, super specifications and all that stuff, and really what I enjoyed most about the Amiga was the games, obviously, but also the productivity, which you could do pretty much on a stock A500, you know, like doing Paint and doing animations and stuff like that. That's what I really enjoyed. So it's been a conscious decision not to, you know, adapt my Amiga so much. I mean, obviously everybody gets different enjoyment out of different things. For me, I just enjoy the nostalgia of doing things how I used to do it 20, 25 plus years ago, and playing the games that I remember. And for me, this is just a perfect machine. And to be honest with you, I also had, actually thinking about it, a Apollo 630 card in this Amiga 600, this one that you're seeing on the screen at the moment, back in, probably picked that up actually in the last days that I had the Amiga, probably around about late 99, early 2000, because Power Computing, if you remember them, they were selling Apollo 630 cards, which was no 30, 25 megahertz, I think, with 8 mega RAM, or maybe 32 mega RAM actually, for the Amiga 600, and they were like 60, 70 pounds or something, dirt cheap. And but it was so unreliable. It was the most unreliable accelerator I'd ever had. I can only assume that it popped off of the 68,000 inside, which has always been the Amiga 600's problem. Yeah, so for me, keeping this Amiga 600 vanilla is really important, because it's also my first Amiga that I bought, and I really want this to last. I've had it recapped, and yeah, it's great. And you'll be surprised, the more you use a basic 68,000 Amiga or stock Amiga, the more you actually appreciate what it can do, just as it is. And the less slow it seems. I remember when I first dug out the Amiga 600, it seemed like it was running like a dog, which I've never understood as a phrase, but now I think it runs quite fast. Let's catch up some of the chat. Have I ever run out of fuel in real life? Yeah. I've got some stories about that. I've run out of fuel probably about 2 or 3 times in my car. Once I was driving over a railway bridge in Worthing, which is near where I live. And I was on the way to the petrol station, and I just ran out of fuel, and I got to this roundabout, and that was it. I was stopped dead on the roundabout about 100, maybe 200 yards from the petrol station. So there was only one thing for it, and that was to get out and push the car, which I was driving at the time, a Ford Escort, an old 1980s Ford Escort, and nobody helped me. And there was one old guy behind me who had the temerity to beep his horn at me. And I thought, well, not being funny, mate, but here I am. I don't know how old I was at the time. Probably about 24, 25, something like that. So this is a little while ago now. And, you know, I'm pushing this Ford Escort by myself, which was a gargantuan. Eventually, this nice guy in his van helped me out and helped me push it into the garage and got me going again, because I don't know what it was, but we couldn't get it started after. It was quite an old car. It was, I don't know when this was, but this must have been about 2007, something like that. And yeah, it was a pretty old car then. It was I think it was a 1988 Ford Escort. I used to jokingly call it the Beast because it was anything but. This is a really hard level to look at the chat, guys. I think the problem is that I, apart from this YouTube like and Twitter, I don't actually do a lot of social media. So my iPhone tends to last a good 2 days on a single charge. But of course, obviously, I've not charged my phone for 2 days, and now because it's charging, I can't actually put it in the docking station to actually read the chat. So it's actually laying flat at the moment, but I'm going to sort that out in a minute. So sorry for the non-participatory chat. This is just like the worst level possible for taking your eyes away from the screen. Hope you're enjoying it, guys. I know I tend to prattle on a bit, but that's what you're here for, I guess. Okay. Oh, I think what's happened is the chat's obviously scrolled down below where I can see the phone. What I really liked about talking about the game is that the draw distance was adapted when it was misty or if it was at night time, and I thought that was a really cool effect. And And to be honest with you, that always looked pretty good on a television or just like an old-fashioned CRT, I thought. Very, very atmospheric effect. Yeah. But yeah, this is just a superb racing game. You'd also, I think it was it, I'm trying to remember. Sean Southern, I think he was the programme, was it? And Andrew Morris, he was the graphics artist. Apologies if I got this the wrong way round, but one of the things I really liked about Andrew Morris's pixel art, because obviously that's what I do, it was the subtlety. I mean, particularly, which level is it? It's the marsh level. Oh, I'm out of time. Yeah, it was the marsh level, and if you go on that, I'll show you it in a minute. Never read and drive, Vicky. Yeah, you're right, Geordie. Absolutely right. Yeah, it's if you go on to the, I think it's the marsh level. There's just this little hint of pink in the sky, which I assume is probably done with the copper, but just that little subtle hint above the mountains makes all the difference. So let's see what we've got. Nigel's Workbench, hi. CR Fitzgerald, hi. Just trying to catch up on the chat here a minute, guys. You play Driving Force? I don't recall playing that, Anthony, I'll be honest. Oh, thanks, Hayes Mater. I know you've probably gone now, but yeah, thanks for popping in. Hi, Mauro. Hope you're okay. You're still here. Dave, you miss your XR3i. I never had an XR3i, but I used to have an XR2. That was my second car. It wasn't too bad actually. Terrible handling though, absolutely rubbish. What upload speed is my internet connection? I have fibre broadband, with PlusNet, so I use, I think it's 76 megabits down with 20 megabits up. So yeah. So hey Gary, how you doing? Hopefully join you in the Amiga stream later. Amiga old school, hi. Old Fords is a Rust. Yeah, that was my first. My first car was a Mark 1 Ford Fiesta, and it cost me 20 quid. It was fantastic in a terrible way. You could break into it using just a flat dinner knife in a lock. It was completely worn. You could push your hands down on the outside of the driver's side window, and just that would roll the window down. Obviously the sunroof leaked, so you had to sit in a plastic bag, even though you had bathroom sealer all around it. The thing shook if you drove more than 50 miles an hour, full speed obviously. The boot lock didn't work, so you had to get in the car, and my dad had rigged up a coat hanger kind of thing which pulled the lock to sort of open it, and you could get back out the car and go into. The carpets were rotten, but it still passed its MOT. Oh, and it was painted in house paint as well by me. Hey Mad Pete, how you doing? So just in time to hear the soundtrack. What a soundtrack. Yeah, you're right. So oh Dave, your Ford got broken into. Yeah, yeah, I had that happen in Milton Keynes once. It was unfortunate. Yeah, so I think the Fords were pretty bad. I sadly had a break-in actually when I went to play Expo in Blackpool. When was it? Last October? Yeah, but I just parked in a car park in Blackpool, left the car there over the weekend, came back Sunday morning, and some bastard had broken into the car. So I, thankfully nothing was stolen, so there was nothing in the car, but obviously it caused a lot of aggro. But my God, I have to, you know, like, people aren't as unfriendly in the south as perhaps some people may think, but the people of Blackpool were super nice. I mean, there was two guys that went off to get some cardboard and some tape whilst I kept an eye on the car. There was this lovely couple who bought me a cup of coffee. So there are some really good people in the world, and that's what you've got to remember these things. So yeah. So, I just want to show you the level which has that really, what I think is nice, subtle pixel art in the horizon by Sean Southern and Andrew Morris. Yeah, I think I got it right way around with who did the artwork on this. I'm pretty sure it's Andrew Morris. He did other games, obviously, on the Amiga, like Supercars. Well, obviously, they did as Magnetic Field, Supercars. What was the name of that platform that they did? One with that thuggish looking kid in it. Get the name. It was published by Ocean anyway, so yeah. Okay, so I'm going to do the Marsh course now. I like this. Actually, this is probably a stage that I struggle to get past the most. Just put the mission on Facebook. Do you remember the first time you experienced your Amiga? That's a good question to ask me, because I can just blather about that whilst I drive badly. First time I experienced an Amiga was... I don't know what year it was. It was certainly 1989 or after. It wasn't so much my friend, but I think it was first and foremost my mum's friend. Obviously, they had kids as well. I kind of got on with the sort of the kids. They were okay. Weren't my main friends at school or anything like that. But they had an Amiga 500 with a 1084 monitor. I remember that very distinctly. And I don't know how much, I can't remember really what I blathered on about in the last stream, but basically my experience with computers was very, very innocent in many ways, in like many of perhaps a similar age to myself, that the school had no computers. This is primary school I'm talking about, infant school, middle school, junior school, whatever you call it. And this, actually Dave will know this, because I went to, well, I'm originally from the southeast. I've moved back down towards the southeast. I live near Worthing now, which is near Brighton. But I spent most of my school years in North Devon. And I went to a primary school in Braunton, which is a fairly reasonably sized village, about 5 miles west, isn't it, of Barnstaple. Oh, hang on, what am I doing here? Chatting rather than concentrating. And they had one BBC Micro between all of us in that school, and it used to get wheeled in on a trolley, and that was the only computer experience that I had. So after that, I think the Amiga was the next computer I must have seen in my life, because it may have been a Spectrum, but it's hard to tell what the timeline is of these things now. But they had Rainbow Islands on it, and we're going to play that in a moment. Amazing. Absolutely amazing game on the Amiga. One of my all-time favourites. Still got the disc here. Glutton for punishment that it is. I still play it off disc sometimes, just nostalgia really. Yeah. So what was my thoughts of seeing the Amiga for the first time? Not really sure actually. I was certainly impressed. It was far in advance of anything that we had on a BBC at school. We had one game in it which was like the chicken, the fox and a bag of grain, and you was the farmer and you had to get it across the river, and it was just really basic graphics, and to me that seemed like mad weird science, and of course also the logo as well. But yeah, the Amiga was just so colourful. It seemed like the future, and it was, because probably around about that time, I'd say it was probably more likely 1990 that I saw this thing for the first time, maybe 91 at the latest. And yeah, it was just amazing. But there was no way in hell that I could ever expect to get one, because they were like £399 by then in the shops, and there was no way that my parents had £400 to spend on a present of any kind. So the fact that I got a Commodore 64 one year for my birthday for 100 quid was, well, it was out of this world. I mean, but the bizarre thing about that is I never actually remember asking for a computer. Not that I recall, so I can only assume that I did because, you know, like, for example, we bought my parents an iPad about, 7 years ago, maybe. And it was their first foray onto the internet and really their first sort of computer of sorts. And I had to tell my dad how to use a spacebar because he was typing everything without spaces between the words. So that gives you an idea of just what level my parents are at with regards to computers. And yeah, so they would have never thought out of their own minds to buy me a computer, so strange. So yeah, that it did feel like the future. Magic Island is a sweet cover tune. I'm gonna have to check that out, Mad Pete. Actually, yeah. Room full of BBCs in South Molton. South Molton, gosh, there's a place. I don't know whether that place has changed much over the years. Don't remember there being much there. It was like Quince Honey Farm. That was what was there. Is that still there, Dave? I think we went on a school trip there one year. I don't know, my late dad had an iPad. Yeah, my dad's fairly au fait with the iPad now. They were using their iPad 2 up until last year, which unfortunately had slowed down quite a lot, but which frustrated him. But he does get on quite well with it. He's able to use Gumtree and all that kind of stuff. Actually, just to show this, you can see here that this is just whilst this is on the workbench screen. So yeah, just a Motorola 68,000 in here, Dave. I just do the total memory. You can see that it's basically a 3.5 meg of free RAM once this boots. So it's enough for WHD loads, or at least the games that I play. It's plenty enough for my animation. And amazingly, it's pretty good for, not that there's a great deal of use for it apart from just for the nostalgia and purity of it all, but it works pretty well in Final Copy. In fact, it works exceptionally well. But that's a conversation for another day. So let's fire up Rainbow Islands. There we go. Boxes full of 600s, yeah. I still think they're kind of underrated. I think it's just tarnished by its reputation back in the day. I mean, it was absolutely the wrong system for Commodore to release at the time. We all know the history of it. But now I think it's very much, in many respects, the better Amiga to have compared to an Amiga 500. The only reason I say that is because the Amiga 500 doesn't have an easy way without getting some form of expansion like the ACA 500 to plug in a compact flash card. So transferring your ADFs can be a bit of a nuisance if you don't have the original games, which obviously most people don't. Not these days anyway. I think whilst I have bought the odd serious bit of software hoping that the floppy disk will still work, I think when you look at some of those tatty old boxes on eBay and you think how long they've been up in the loft, you'd be mad to invest a lot of money into floppy disk originals unless actually you don't really care about whether the disc works. Toki, that was a brilliant conversion actually, Mauro, wasn't it? Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, Phil, whistling this tune for the rest. Oh, sorry, I'm looking at the chat, not looking at the Let me pause this. Good old WHD load, definitely. Yeah, it's a shame that the A600 didn't have AGA. See, if you ask me, I think Commodore absolutely really should have had the Amiga 1200 or a system with the AGA chipset out in November 1990. I say that because that was when the Super Famicom, the Super Nintendo came out. And the thing is that to start with, you'll be surprised how many, particularly in the West, Amiga ports that system kind of got. I'm not playing this very well, I'm chatting. You know, like Draken, that was one game that seemed to stick in my mind. But the thing is, as soon as programmers worked out all the benefits of a system like the Super Nintendo, and of course obviously had the Mega Drive as well, which came out a couple of years earlier. You know, the writing was probably on the wall for the Amiga by about 91, as Commodore just wasn't visibly improving their offer. But I guess this all comes back down to the fact the Amiga was actually a very slow burner. I mean, the Amiga 500 only really started getting its traction once, well, probably about 1989, 1990. You know, that's a long time after pretty much what it was, which is an Amiga 1000 OCS chipset, came out. So I think Commodore needed a machine like the A1200 out in late 1990. It might have been a high-end machine, but it should have been followed up with a lower-end Amiga like the 1200 in 91. It would have cost more to start with, but then so did the A500 when that first came out, and well, it may have changed things, but you know, by and large, can I think of any must-have AGA games that run on a stock 1200? I'd say that Aladdin's pretty good on the Amiga. It's not as good as it is on the Mega Drive. So that's why oh, God, I forget that. Yeah, 600 is very nostalgic for me because this is the machine that if I just point the camera at it, just a moment, excuse me. Yeah, if you look down there, that is the Amiga 600 that I bought in 1993. Cool, huh? Yeah, Mauro, the ACA 500 Plus is a superb bit of kit. I actually got one this week after I heard that Jens Schoenfeld might be leaving the Amiga scene because of things that should not be happening still in 2019. I snapped one up because I didn't want to miss out, because I've actually funded on Kickstarter Stephen Jones's Checkmate case, and the plan is to put the Amiga 500 in a motherboard into that, and treat it a bit like the Amiga 3000 that I should never have sold in 2000. I sold, or 2001, I sold an Amiga 3000, fully functional, had a Golden Gate 386 bridge card in it. It certainly had an 8 meg Zorro card in it. I'm not doing very well at this, guys, because I'm keeping an eye on the chat and I'm chatting. But it's good fun. This is good fun. So basically I'm sort of kind of rebuilding a surrogate Amiga 3000, but now that I've got the donor A500 for it, I don't actually want to mess up that Amiga 500, so I'm going to have to get another one. And now that I've got the ACA 500 Plus, I'm thinking, well, this does actually work really nicely with the Amiga 500 in its, you know, console case. So maybe I'll get another one, but I'll bankrupt myself before I know it. So I've got to be a bit careful. But yeah, the Amiga 600 is a very nostalgic machine for me. Not just because this is the Amiga that I bought, my first Amiga. It's just a great little machine. You can easily swap files. So I regularly copy files from my Mac onto the Amiga and vice versa, which means that I can take my artwork with me to work, and because I'm a saddo during the winter months, I quite often do a bit of pixel art at lunchtime because it's a bit wet and windy out. And I can do that on FSUAE, so you know, being able to easily copy the files across is great. You've also got the internal IDE, which is slow and rubbish, but it does mean you can very easily put a compact flash hard disk in there, which on Amiga 500 isn't as straightforward. You've got to there's many ways of doing it, obviously, but it's, yeah. So CD32, no, never had a CD32 back in the day. Slam Tilt, yes, Slam Tilt was an exceptional AGA game. You're right. That was DICE, wasn't it? Or Digital, yeah, Digital Illusions, wasn't it? Yeah, that's an exceptional AGA game. Now that's the kind of the reason why I say that the Amiga 1200 or an AGA machine should have come out in November 1990 is because, to start with, the coders wouldn't have known all the tricks of how to get the best out of the machine. And that's why in the early days on the SNES, for example, you got ports like Draken, which weren't that better than on the Amiga, to be honest with you. I really think they play better on the Amiga. But give a couple of years, you know, by late 1993, coders would have made the most of AGA. It would have moved the market up. The price would have dropped because Commodore would have sold the volume. It would have been, to my mind, the right thing to have done, but we all know how it turned out, don't we? I mean, don't get me wrong. I think what we're left with on the Amiga is like a perfect legacy now. You know, it's one with broken dreams and hopes, but you know, it's of its time. It's something that we all love. Ooh, I'm risking it by doing that. And I should really jump in. Yeah. So yeah, Pinball Fantasies, that was quite good as well, wasn't it? Yeah. Maro reckons that the Aladdin AGA version is actually better than the Mega Drive version. I agree, the sound's better. The A4000, yeah. Oh god, almost got killed there. Yeah, Geordie Marv. The A4000 is, again, it's one of those Amigas that at the time people dismissed because it didn't have SCSI, and there's no doubt about it that out of the box, the Amiga 3000 hard disk access was much faster than Amiga 4000 out of the box. Even with the 040, the SCSI on the A3000 was a lot faster, which did make a difference. If you'd never had a hard disk based Amiga before you bought a 4000, you'd still think it was fantastic. But I think it was probably a bit unfair at the time, actually, to do you know what, guys? I'm not usually this rubbish at Rainbow Islands. I usually fly through the first stage, but I'm talking and thinking at the same time, so I hope my chat actually makes some sense. Otherwise, you're both watching somebody being rubbish at a game and talking incoherent nonsense. But yeah, the A4000, I think, is a better machine than perhaps it was given credit for at the time. It's pretty expandable, more expandable than the 3000. It's not as cramped. Oh shit, come on, Vicky. Is my zip stick a bit sticky? Yeah, it is a bit, actually. I do need to give it a bit of love. So yeah, I use Mac. Yeah, I did see you use a new Mac there, Dave. Hi Simone, how are you doing? Hope you're alright. Hi Mirko or Mirko. You'll have to, I can pronounce Cipolla, but I'm never quite sure sometimes. Unfortunately, my Italian is not as good as my English. I think the most important thing I know in Italian is vorrei un bicchiere di vino rosso, per favore, which means I'll have a glass of red wine, please. So, I have been learning French for the last 3 years or so, which is going better than I would have expected, considering I completely flunked it at school. So, which is quite nice, actually, because I'm hoping to get over to Paris later on this year for the Japan Expo, which I've always wanted to go to. So that'd be cool. What else have we got in the chat? Zool 2 AGA. Yeah, that's pretty good. Pretty good. Alien Breed AGA. Alien Breed 2 was it? That was quite good. Oh, I can see why the A4000 is nostalgic for you, Geordie. Yeah. Yeah, the A4000, they've really crept up in price. Oh, do you know, I always do that on this stage. Yeah, the A4000 has really crept up in price. In fact, all Amigas have. For example, the A500 that I bought to make a donor for my Checkmate machine, I picked that up for 40 quid. Had a Commodore A501 in it. It had, well, it's just kicked up. This is a vanilla A500, but 40 quid. It didn't have a power supply, but yeah, it was pretty good. Had a few problems. I think the Paula chip was 40, so Amiga Passion sorted that out for me, because whilst I know my Amigas, I'm not good at the technical, you know, you do not want to see with a soldering iron. A soldering iron in my hands would be considered an offensive weapon. So, not that you have to use a soldering iron to change your Paula chip, obviously. I could change that, but obviously I don't have any spares. I'm not an electronics person, really. I appreciate this older stuff immensely, but I'm not your Neil from Retro Man Caves, or your I'm not a hardware tinkerer. I never have been. Even though I had stacked Amigas back in the day, I got immensely frustrated when they didn't work. I don't have the patience for things when they don't work. I like the simple things, which is probably why I like the Amiga 600. Yeah, so the A500 was a good score, but all Amigas now are super expensive. There was the Amiga 3000, I think, went for about, well, it was over £1,000. I think the thing is that I can understand the nostalgia attached to a machine like that, and if you've got the money, go for it. As long as you get some enjoyment out of it, no problem with it. Let's just pause this. Italy, yeah, no, it is quite international, isn't it, Bishop? You failing now? Yeah, I am. Oh, Alien Breed 3D, yeah, I remember that, Mad Pete. Yeah, I don't know if I've still got that somewhere, actually, you know, so... And Alien Breed 3D 2, yeah, I do remember trying to play that on my Amigas, but never got with it, so... I died it again. Hi, Kai, hope you're alright. I'm just playing some Rainbow Islands. Not very well, it has to be said. I'm usually a bit sharper than this, but this is my second only stream. I'll be honest with you. Usually when I play games, I don't talk to myself that often. I do talk to myself quite often, though, particularly when I'm at work, if I'm trying to debug why a website's not doing what it should damn well do. Yeah, who doesn't know? That's what computers do, isn't it? Yeah, so all Amiga stuff is now super expensive, really. I think other people have pointed... Oh, God, almost got killed there again. I think, as others have very astutely pointed out, it's the people that had them back in the day are now doing jobs where they can afford certain prices, and you know, that it makes it feasible to pay £100 for an Amiga 500. You know, it's in good condition. I don't see many Amiga 600s below a ton these days in good condition, and of course, obviously, the problem with the Amiga 600s, and like with the 1200 and the 4000, you've got to get them recapped. They just will not survive the course if they've not been recapped. They're just, like a lot of electronics at that time, like the TurboGrafx and stuff like that, they've just got crap capacitors, haven't they? So I'd be lying if I said that I knew exactly what a capacitor was even today. But I understand that they're bad if they go wrong. So that's why I've got my Amiga 600 recapped last year when I dug it out the loft. Worked first time when I flicked it on, which is great. Probably about the first time it had been turned on in about, well, 8 years, I reckon. So that's a testament of how reliable it is otherwise. So yeah, Amiga stuff is definitely getting really expensive. I think I saw an ACA 68030. I think it was the latest version of it. Go on eBay. I think there's a buy it now, and it's sold for the 400 quid it was being asked for, which is, to my mind, is staggering, because I obviously, like many of us probably here, remember the fag end days of the Amiga, sort of around about sort of 97, 98, 99, where you could buy, so for example, the World of Amiga 97, which I went to with my dad, I bought from Power Computing a Viper 5. It had 68030 50 megahertz, 8 mega RAM, SCSI controller, DMA SCSI controller, 2-speed CD-ROM drive. It came with the CD32 versions of Chaos Engine, Oscar and Diggers, throw that away, and Wordsworth 6 Office, 239 quid. Okay, you have to allow for inflation, but whew, yeah. 1200 recap for 35 quid. Still, oh, Graham, it's a good score. Was that with Amiga Passion? Because that's who I sent mine to, and he's done a top job. So, yeah, Error 42. You're right. 40, you know, sort of 18 quid for an Amiga 500. 10 years or so ago would have been pretty standard. I wasn't really paying any attention to the Amiga over the last 10 years. No, 20 years, isn't it? Oh shit. And but occasionally I'd eBay them, and yeah, stuff was going for peanuts. So yeah, it's interesting how things have changed, isn't it? And an Amiga 1200, good, that's scoring a good one of those for, I'd say, below 200 quid these days. So let's see. Yeah, Phil, they do contain magic, don't they? Magic stuff I don't understand. Yeah, Kai's got an A500 Plus off of eBay for 90 quid. Yeah, that's not a bad deal, actually. If you can get an Amiga 500 Plus working, great machine, superb. I would have another, but it would have to obviously have the issues with the battery sorted out. Sadly, Amiga 500 Plus that I had back in, which I bought in 95, that died. It was thrown out, taken to the tip in 2006 when my parents moved. And yeah, I again, as I said earlier on, I'm not really a techie person. I didn't know why it wasn't working. I opened it up, but I didn't know what the cause of the blank screen or whatever it was doing at the time was. If I'd looked a bit closer, I'd have seen that it was the battery, obviously, but sadly I didn't see it, so that got slung. But the Amiga 500 Plus is a great machine because, one, you've got that lovely nostalgic Amiga 500 case. Two, you've got the obese Agnes, I think we're still allowed to call it that, which allows 2 mega chip RAM really easily without any of these mega chips or whatever else you can pick up these days. You've got numeric keypad, which allows you to play some flight sims, but actually crucially with Deluxe Paint, and this is actually a big problem with using my Amiga 600, perspective control on Deluxe Paint relies on the numeric keypad, so I have to run a little commodity if I ever use the perspective tools in Deluxe Paint on my Amiga 600, which is not very often, I'll be honest. But where am I? I don't know where I am. There we go. Let's time this. Oh shit, you bastard. Yeah. Yeah, the Amiga 500 Plus, great nostalgic machine. Love it. Absolutely love the Amiga 500. I'd certainly pick up another if I could get one in working order. And maybe that could form the basis of my replacement Amiga 3000, because apart from the 32-bit chip RAM, which the Amiga 3000 had, it will be very similar to the Amiga 3000 in many respects. When it was Zorro free, but I'm not going to be using that anyway. The ACA 500 Plus was bought explicitly to go in that checkmate case, so that would give me an easy hard disk option, and also the ability to at least put a compact flash card in as a hot swap for exchanging files. I do have a Parnet card, but Parnet cable, but a bit of a faff every time you want to swap a file. You've got to get the Parnet cable out and actually physically have the other Amiga switched on, but they do work well. I use Parnet quite a lot in a day. What else can I say about that? So yeah, Amiga 500 Plus, very nostalgic machine for me. I think a lot of the incompatibility issues were sorted out. I mean, obviously you've got things like reload kick if you've got something that's been a bit problematic. But yeah, good machine. Good shout. Let's have a look at the chat. Boots there around 96 bought a 501 meg for £1 and still works. Oh my god, Amiga old school, that's awesome. Oh wow. £1. Best Amiga pickup that I ever had. Do you know, it's so long ago I can't remember. But I would say that the Apollo 1240 that I bought, the 40 megahertz one for, I think I paid, actually, tell a lie, in retrospect, two things were good pickups. The Amiga 3000, I paid about £150 for that. That was good. And to the Blizzard PPC. I don't remember exactly what I paid for it, but it was only about £100 because it was sold as non-working. What's not to like? Yeah, replacement 3000, 4000 motherboards, amazing. I'd like a white 500 plus boards. I have no idea. GBA 1000 boards, yeah, there are quite a few of those on eBay actually, I noticed. Yeah, the 500 is... This is the reason why I can't use the 500 that I picked up last year, which was going to originally go in a checkmate case. It's in good condition. It's in really good condition. And as soon as you boot it up and you see that Kickstart 1.3 well, yeah, the Kickstart 1.3, but asking you for Workbench 1.3, man, the nostalgia that provokes is incredible. Yeah, it's a good machine. I mean, I wouldn't use an Amiga 500 as my daily driver Amiga. For that, I've got the Amiga 600 here. It's just a more practical machine day to day. But tomorrow I am going to be doing a live stream from that Amiga 500. It has a slightly temperamental floppy drive, but it does work. And yeah, we're just going to blast out some D-Paint and some Disney Animation Studio, which is actually quite good on it. But yeah, the blue and orange colour scheme of Amiga Workbench 1.3 is pretty garish, but full of nostalgia. Let's get this guy. Don't shoot me with his lightning bolts. First 500 1.2. Do you know what? I've never actually owned physically an Amiga with a Kickstart 1.2. The ACA 500 Plus actually contains Kickstart 1.2 in its flash ROM or whatever it's called. I actually did try it the other day, and what was it I found was a bit weird with it? There was something that Kickstart 1.2... I think it was that Duex Paint would only work in NTSC. I don't know whether that was because of the Kickstart ROM that I chose. Maybe I chose an NTSC Kickstart ROM, but yeah. I can't say for sure whether the 500 that I first saw all those years ago at my mum's friends, or my friends, I can't really keep calling my mum's friend, whether that was a 1.2 or 1.3 Amiga. I'm pretty certain it'd be 1.3 those though. Yeah. So yeah, lots of happy memories of that setup. That's why I want to use it tomorrow, because it's too nice to not use sitting under the bed. Anything I miss putting a hard drive in a 1200? Yeah, back in the day, one of the things that was quite common was instead of putting a 2.5-inch laptop drive in, was to cheap out and get a 3.5-inch device, which is exactly what I did. And I don't know if any of you guys remember them, but there was a Amiga retailer called Gas Steiner that used to be based on the North Circular Road in North London, and they sold slimmer 3.5-inch IDE drives. And it meant that I could buy like essentially what was, this is a bit intense, isn't it? A PC 3.5-inch hard disk. I think I picked up an 850 megabyte hard drive, which was insane back in 1996, for about £129, which was far cheaper than you could get a 2.5-inch drive at that price. 2.5-inch drive at that price, you'd probably be looking at something back then like a 340 meg, something silly like that. So yeah. Yeah, that's right. Actually, on the Kickstart 3.0 Amiga 1200s, they didn't quite give it enough time for all hard drives to spin up. So what would sometimes happen on Kickstart 3.0, which is what all of the Commodore Amiga 1200s had, was that not all hard drives would be ready to boot in time. I'm not really concentrating on the game. Basically, what would happen is that you would turn your Amiga on from cold start and you would just have the insert disk screen. But I do recall that Kickstart 3.1 fixed that by just adding just a little bit more delay, which is quite good. Oh shit. Yeah. Spare Terrible Fire 530. That sounds interesting. Is that a 68030, Kai? So, yeah, let's just pause this around. Yeah, it's weird turning on an Amiga and hearing the hard drive spin up. It felt unnatural the first time I heard it. It sounded like a PC. Oh. Well, that's Rainbow Islands, guys. Let's see what else we got. I think I'm going to wrap up the stream soon. I had a 3.5-inch hard drive connected to the A6 replaced in an external VHS case. Oh, that's a good idea, actually. Just as long as it wasn't in something that you really wanted to watch, you snatched it away too quickly. I could have put Akira or, sort of my Akira video cassette. Yeah. Got a 20 gig 2.5-inch drive and 12. That's pretty old school. Having any spinning disc in an Amiga these days is pretty old school, isn't it? So, actually, the Amiga 1200 I picked up the end of last year. It's absolutely mint condition. I showed it on the stream the other day. I will dig it out in future streams and future videos. But it contained a hard disk in it, which I had no idea it had one in it, because when obviously it was shown to me by the seller, it didn't actually boot from hard disk. Obviously, this thing had been switched on for about 20 odd years. Yeah, but I opened it up and there it was. So it was one of these Connor drives, like 60 megabyte or something like that. So I fiddled about with it, gave it a tap, and it popped. So 530, it's 030, and has a 40-pin IDE. Yeah, cool. We'll round off with just a little bit of Turrican 2, because why not? I love the Chris Hulsbeck soundtrack, and it's like Lotus 2, it's absolutely legendary. Switch on the autofire. Connor drives, yeah, they don't know how to describe it. It felt like it was like clicking away in an empty box. Turrican is just one of those games that I just go quiet playing. I just love it. It is literally an essential Amiga arcade quality game. So probably more playable than a lot of stuff that actually was in the arcades back in the day, because obviously those were designed to rinse you of your 50p coins or whatever it would have been, 10p coins. Yeah. Ooh. IBM Death Star, yeah. Yeah, they didn't. This one really did not sound very healthy at all, but as I say, I had to tap it to get it to actually. To get this hornet's nest. To actually get it to fire up. So, yeah, it's definitely not. But I did manage to look through it and back up any of the data that was on it. Excuse me, sniffling there. That was pretty disgusting. Oh, yeah. So, do I miss having a real hard drive in an Amiga? Absolutely not. Compact flash all the way, baby. Or SD if you've got that. So, I love the fact that I can store like up to 4 gigabytes worth of artwork and stuff like that without any major issues. So, hey, Doug. Hope the installation of the security cameras went well. Don't worry about being late. I'm going to wrap up soon. Just doing a bit of Turrican 2 here just to round off the stream. So I think it's been a success. Has the stream held up well for you guys? Has it seemed like it's kept up better than it did on when was it, Sunday? Because it was pretty atrocious in the end on Sunday. I mean, not so much me, hopefully. I only had the one beer. But yeah, the stream was dreadfully lagged. I was actually quite worried that my MacBook Air, which is what I was having to use to do the stream on, was actually gonna melt. It was, yeah, didn't go as well as I hoped that one, but for the first stream I felt that went pretty well, so probably got one of the more useful weapons for the camera. Oh, Josh, thanks for letting me know. Just doing a time walk. No hiccups, been perfectly smooth. Mage well for the win. So, one of the things I always find with Turrican is I just want to get all the stuff, and I run out of time, and I die all the time. The other thing is with Turrican is, and I think this probably goes back to sort of being more used to gaming on the Super Nintendo in the latter stages of the 90s when I was spending most of my time gaming. I find it easier to hit buttons than to remember to hit the space bar. I always forget how to do the spinning thing that Turrican does, so I don't know why. I'm gonna have to look that up. And you bastard. Looks high quality, awesome. Do you know, I am impressed with this card because I think its trick is that it essentially pretends to be a webcam. So it doesn't need actually any drivers, and that was the issue with CX sending me the wrong card actually. Because the Macintosh version of the software doesn't support anything on the Gen 1 Magewell USB to HDMIs. Can't die. Yeah. And so that meant that I couldn't tweak the input resolution to be 4:3 aspect. But I'm just in two minds whether I actually do send this one back to CX now, because if this is working alright and it's coming through in a decent enough resolution, then why would I bother with returning it? Essentially what happens is that Magewell were super helpful in actually updating the firmware of the capture card. They yeah, it does work on Linux, Phil. It's very universal. It works on Windows, Linux, Mac. It essentially just presents as a web camera. So check it out. If you go onto magewell.com, M-A-G-E well.com, there's the USB to HDMI capture Gen 2, and you'll be able to get all of the paraphernalia, pamphlets and stuff about the device. Oh, I hate those guys. Yeah, so it works really well. Super simple to set up. Plug it in and go. Can't complain. Super happy with it. Much better than the Elgato that I was using. Not just because of the lag, but just the ease of use. Because with what am I using for this? Open broadcast software, OBS. That just works brilliantly with this. So yeah, it's pretty good actually. Much more simple to set up. So actually, funny thing is, guys, that when I started doing this stream this evening, I had mistakenly chosen last week's stream somehow to broadcast with. So I was thinking, why isn't it working? And I thought, oh no, here we go again. But it turns out that I was just being an idiot. So like there. Yeah, so now this is where I need to remember how you do the... Oh, I can't remember how you do it. Rolling up into a ball of muscle. This is how long ago it is that I've really properly played on an Amiga. Which is really bad actually, isn't it? I suppose I've spent the past year mostly playing Leander and Lemmings and... Oh, don't want to go too far that way. Sword. Oh, I hate this. Oh. Oh shit, too far forwards. Oh. Almost dead. Let's just get the most out of this. Game over. Ah. Down in spacebar, that was it. Yeah, thanks. Oh, they had a great soundtrack. Yeah, so yeah. Yeah, it is good for OBS. It uses the it's a web camera. Okay. The last thing I'm just going to do, guys, because some of you may have been here on Sunday last week, I guess, now, isn't it? Is just show you where I got to with that drawing that I was attempting to do. Just before I wrap up the stream. Is just show you where I got to with that drawing. I've made a bit of progress this week. I didn't want to go too far of it because obviously I do want to use it as a learning point for you guys who want to sort of learn your pixel art. So this is what I love about this is why the Amiga was a great system. The fact that you could play arcade quality games, really good games, and next thing you know, you're back in Workbench. Admittedly, you'd have to boot a disc back in a day, but here we are doing serious productivity. It's great, just as good as a modern day computer, just a bit slower. Okay, I think that's the one I'm most happy with. So, let's open up deep paint and be done with it. So. Oh yeah, take the Alt file and hold down the fire button. Yeah, you're right. This is what I've got to get more used to. So, oh, let's talk retro. Thank you. I'm glad you've enjoyed it. So, Josh Stati, yeah, I need to explain probably my setup a bit more. What I'll do is I'll probably do a separate video or stream just to go through my setup, but it's quite straightforward. It's I've got an Amiga to SCART cable, standard Amiga to SCART. The SCART cable then goes into a, let me show you it if I can. You might lose the Amiga picture here, folks. Actually, I can't touch it. It's blue tacked together. The SCART goes into a SCART to HDMI adapter. They're pretty common on Amazon. And that outputs in HDMI. That box can also take a HDMI input itself. You can switch between 4:3 and 16:9 resolutions on the SCART to HDMI box, which is great. And out of that, you get a headphone output, which is why I've been wearing my headphones this evening, so I can listen to Amiga audio without it coming through the webcam. And the HDMI then comes out to a box that I bought this week, which again I can't really show you because I'll pull all the cables out. But basically that splits the HDMI signal into two so that I can use two displays simultaneously. And I'm actually using one screen. It's a flat screen monitor. Hey Bill, how you doing? How are we doing? I'm just wrapping up the stream actually, but yeah, thanks for popping along. It's really kind of you. So I'll just explain my setup. So the SCART goes into the SCART to HDMI. That goes into a box that splits out the HDMI into two simultaneous streams, so that basically one of them goes into the capture card because the capture card I bought doesn't have a pass through. So, and then the other side of the splitter goes into the monitor. So that way, I can actually flick the monitor onto the HDMI input rather than the DVI input, which I use for the Mac. And that way I can then see my Amiga, and there is no perceptible lag. Any crap gameplay that you've seen this evening is purely down to my incompetence. So, yeah. So just to wrap up, sorry, Bill, we've had some Lotus, we've had some Turrican 2, we've had some Rainbow ones. It's been good. Oh, good. I'm glad you're well, Bill. So, yeah. Yeah, I know this stream feed's quite addictive, isn't it? So I was just showing sort of some of the progress that I made with the drawing that I was doing on Sunday night, which you saw eventually. So what you'll see here is I've just basically done some basic shading, and I've also done some anti-aliasing, which is smoothing out the pixels on the eye here. So, but you'll notice that I've left the character of Yui Hirasawa. She's still a wireframe. So the idea is that in tomorrow's double header stream that we're going to look at drawing Yui so that she looks more of the quality of which Azaza is on the left-hand side here, so that you can see how I actually do that, and hopefully it'll be relatively in time and in sequence. Yeah, and then what we can do is we're going to flip over to Disney Animation Studio, which is still, I think, an excellent piece of software. And we're going to use the pencil test tool, and we're going to draw a animated character. I'll show you how to do that on your Amiga, and if we get time, we might even shade it as well. So it's all going to be part of this animation which I've been working on. Essentially, I've been working on my next video, which has turned into almost a almost like one of those old school VHS tapes of how to do Deluxe Paint. There's two great videos on YouTube if you've not seen them. There's Getting the Most Out of Deluxe Paint 3 and Getting the Most Out of Deluxe Paint 4, or words to that effect. They're great. Watch those if you like your D-Paint. And there's also another video which I highly recommend. It's this chap who did a video about Amiga animation, or computer animation. He did it in around about 1990-91. Super lovely guy. He has a great sense of humour, American guy, and it's a video that I can only describe as delightful. He's just, I don't want to use the word cute because it sounds wrong, but he's just the cutest guy. I'll dig out the links and I'll send them around if anybody tweet me, and I'll send you the links. But I'm trying to remember his name, but he did this Amiga animation video, and it's just lovely. But it's really practical and helpful as well, and I learned a lot from it as well. It's not a video that I had in a day. It was obviously one that perhaps was available if you was an American Amiga user. Perhaps you subscribed to Amiga World magazine, and perhaps it was advertised in there. Or I'm not sure, but it's not one that I ever remember seeing advertised in the UK Amiga magazines. So. Amiga bill shows up and you close down the stream. I hope it's nothing personal. Oh yeah, it is so personal. No, of course it's nothing personal. It's just purely because it's Friday evening here. I've had a great chill with all you guys. I probably want to rest my voice. You guys probably need a rest of my voice. And this beer isn't going to drink it by itself. So layers would be awesome. Layers would indeed be awesome in Duets Paint. But one of the things that I'm going to hopefully instill through the series of videos and streams that I do on Deluxe Paint is that in effect you do have layers with Deluxe Paint. You have stencils and you have the background fixing. Now what this means is that you need to, unlike these days where you can literally sit down with Photoshop or Sketchbook or whatever you use and you can just wing it. You can have an idea, whack it down onto a layer, adjust it, and then you can undo. You can undo as much as you like. You can put layers in between. It's great. That's what's really good actually about today, is that you can be very spontaneous. I think that's a good thing. But in the old days with limited undo, no layers. Remember, Photoshop until version 3 did not have layers itself. Admittedly, version 3 came out in 1995, but you know, to me that still seems like yesterday. But what you had to do with these older applications is plan ahead. You needed to think about what is my end result going to be, and I think that actually goes back before computer animation or computer artwork. Is that when the Disney animators or any of the animators, they would be thinking ahead, like, how is this going to work? They may have done a quick sketch in a book, you know, sort of sketchbook. But largely when it came to actually putting together their scenes, they had been thinking about, well, this component needs to be separate from this component, and therefore I should draw that. So, for example, I draw the face separate from the shoulders. I draw the backdrop separately. You actually sit down and think about what is your ultimate end goal with this piece of computer graphics, shall we say, and that's what works with Duets Paint. Is I will do a sketch using just a line tool usually. I'll save that and I'll work on the character or the characters. I'll usually draw the characters separately in different numbering schemes, and then I can bring those back together. But the reason you want to do them separately is because if you join them together to start with, so say for example with this picture of Azazel and Yui, if I've drawn Yui, I'm actually not going to have drawn this part of Azazel, which is going to be covered up by Yui. So when it comes to animation, I actually have to patch that all in. But if I've drawn Azazel to start with, I can actually bring Yui in over the top of Azazel as an anim brush, and I can work on them separately and then bring them together. It's a lot easier doing it that way, because when you sketch in real life, one of the things that's going to make your proportions look correct is that you will draw faint lines to work out, will the shoulders be connected through the neckline here, or where would the clavicle be? Your clavicles, by the way, are these bits here. You know, you sketch it out. You work out where those lines go. You don't just add a line here and then think, oh, the legs are roughly here. You actually, what the contours of the body are, so you work it all out. So that's why I do it separately. Yeah, TV Paint does do a good job with layers, actually. I think, does it have about 3 layers, Doug? Am I talking about Eric Schwartz? Not specifically. Although I'm sure he knows. No, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not Eric Schwartz, Bill. I will tweet the link out after I finish rabbiting. But there is a video on YouTube. It's just called Amiga Animation, I think, or something like that. And it's about 30 years old almost. VHS quality. It's fantastic. It's perfect. You'll learn a lot from it. Photoshop 3, first version was Photoshop 5, yeah. Yeah, Photoshop is a quirky beast. It still is a quirky beast. Photoshop is literally the most powerful thing you can imagine, as long as you know all of its quirks. And it's got a very steep learning curve to get into it. But once you know all of its quirks and you can start working with it, it works quite well. I actually prefer these days for drawing, if I'm doing sort of my manga stuff or if I'm doing a painting, I much prefer Sketchbook. It's more straightforward to me. I do use Photoshop quite a lot, but I have to say that I prefer Sketchbook for my graphics tablet work. So, oh, Pishbot, hey, how you doing? I'm so sorry, I'm going to be wrapping up the stream soon, but it's super cute for you to come along and say hello. So, if you're wondering why I keep on looking down, guys, it's because I'm actually looking at my phone for the live stream. So, yeah, great to see so many lovely people who've joined me this evening. So tomorrow, I'm going to try and not clash with you, Bill. I think I'm actually going to start at 5 PM UTC for a stream involving my Real Amiga 500, Kickstart 1.3, Workbench 1.3, Orange and Blue, baby, as Bill would say. And we're going to be using some Deluxe Paint with some Disney Animation Studio. It's going to go on for about a couple of hours, using new stream equipment, which seems to have worked out really well. I have that VHS tape. Oh, did you? Wow. Oh, amazing. That's brilliant, Bill. Do you agree that I can't think of the chap's name, but the guy who presents it, he is lovely. He's adorable. He is absolutely adorable. He is charming and sorry, I'm probably gushing. It's sorry, but it's a really good video. Oh, Bill says he's going to do Sunday anyway. Okay. Mauro prefers Sketchbook Pro to Photoshop as well. The other good thing about Sketchbook, Dave, is it's got layers. So there's nothing you could... It's not so much photo processing. It's really for drawing new stuff. So you're not going to find all of your Photoshop stuff in it. But it's if you want to create a new graphic with a graphics tablet, superb bit of software. And it's free now. You can download it free from Autodesk's website, PC and Macintosh. I don't know if it's available on Linux. It may even be available on graphics tablets like iOS and Android, I'm not sure, but yeah. Josh stated, great Amiga streams all weekend. Yeah, do you know what I'm really looking forward to? Last Sunday, I was super nervous. I don't know why, because I honestly have to say that, and this is just an off-the-cuff personal statement, I don't think that what you see in the Amiga forums, I only look maybe once or twice a day at EAB. Occasionally I drop into some of the others, but I only look at EAB. I think EAB is a great forum, but I do think you get some people who I just find just not pleasant to read their opinions of there. But it's free speech, it's free to speak it. But unfortunately, that very aggressive way that they put their opinions across actually gives the wrong impression of the Amiga community. I think actually, whenever I go and meet people in the Amiga community, whether it's been to the Swag Workbench, Amiga Ireland, or back in the day at the World of Amiga shows, most Amigans are just deeply passionate about their computer system and remain to be this day, and it's just a real pleasure to share it with you. So I feel that these streams with you guys are it's really nice to hang out with you, and I think, as I mentioned in one of Amiga Bill's streams, in the UK, I don't know how common it is across the breadth of the UK, but it's extremely common at least in the southeast, for us to refer to guys meaning girls and guys, like men and women. It's not a sexist thing. I'm not referring to everybody who's an Amiga is, male. Predominantly, it seems to be the case. Maddie and myself holding up the female audience, maybe. But yeah, looking forward to those updates, Dave. Oh, hi, Pregnant Sausage. Hey, how you doing? Corel Draw. Yeah, Corel Draw was really good, actually, wasn't it, Dave? I worked with somebody who swore by Corel Draw, and what was the other package he used? PaintShop Pro, was it? I left that job 3 or 4 years ago, and even then he was using the last version of PaintShop Pro that Macromedia or Adobe had put out. He was a lovely guy, really great guy to work with, but he knew his tools, he loved his Corel Draw. That's what he stuck with. All credit to him. And to be fair, I still use Draw Studio on the Amiga for vector art, so which is pretty crazy. I can't show it on here because I've only got it in Amiga 1200 because it would run too slow in the Amiga 600. So yeah, it's been really fun to share this with you guys. Thank you for the great company. You're all very kind. You're all really interesting to chat to and spend an evening with. I'm glad this stream has worked out better. I'm just going to flip back to my Mac. And yeah, it's been really good. And I just hope that some of you can join me tomorrow. Keep tuned on YouTube or Twitter for the announced time, but I would expect 5 p.m. UTC, which is 5 p.m. GMT in the UK. So that would be 6 p.m. in most of Western Europe time. Eastern Standard Time for you, Bill. That's 6 hours behind now, isn't it? So that would be about 11 a.m. So, but no expectations in terms of expecting you guys to be there. Be cool to see you there. Yeah, it's been great to share the evening with you, and I just hope that whatever you're doing, that you have a great weekend. Maybe see you tomorrow, maybe see you on Bill's stream, maybe see you on the Amigo stream later tonight. Just have a great weekend, guys. That's all I can say. So I guess what we may say is oh, hang on. This is a bit like the mouse one. I've just realised I'm pressing escape to close off the full screen of my Mac, and of course obviously that's my Amiga keyboard. How funny. So yeah, I'll see you guys soon. So thanks for joining me. I'm glad you've Maru, you've enjoyed it. I think it's Bishop, thank you so much. Thanks Bill. Yes, hopefully you'll be see you tomorrow. But yeah, enjoy messing around with the Amiga. Have a great weekend, Pishbot. Have a great weekend, Phil. Thanks Error42. It's been great. Thanks, CR Fitzgerald. Awesome stuff. Doug, thank you for popping by. I hope the security cameras work. And have a great weekend all. Happy Ansel. Au revoir. Goodbye.